What's up, y'all? In today's video, we're going to talk about the top 10 most overrated cities in the United States. And at first, this may sound like an informational, entertaining video, but if you think about it, the word overrated also means overvalued. And the last thing you'd want to do with your money is end up in a place where you pay more for something than it's actually worth. So while this video sounds like an entertaining video, all these cities are overrated. It's not just about the hype. It's also the fact that people are investing their money in the places that really have not a lot to offer. So with that, I want you guys to understand that there's a little bit more seriousness to this video than I think that some of you guys can perceive. I mean, the title overrated, oh, this restaurant's overrated, or this movie theater or something. It sounds like something you would casually say, but think about the implications of a city that you move to being overrated. Let's do it. Number 10 is Cape Coral, Florida. Now, I'll admit, I was the first person to say it was the best place to move to in Florida several years ago. But it was the best place to move to for somebody just looking for a nice place to live, a city that was kind of well-rounded and offered everything. When you look at how crazy real estate prices have got lately, you might come to the conclusion that you're probably getting overvalued when you move to Cape Coral, and that is where the overrating kind of comes into play. Yes, it's a nice place to live. Yes, it's conveniently in South Florida, but let's think about it. There aren't really beaches here. I did say that in my video when I said it was one of the best places to move to, and it was a place that I would recommend for somebody who just wanted a well-rounded Florida city. But if you look at what it's become today, where people from all over are just flooding Cape Coral, a city that has now property taxes easily over $5,000, even though their property taxes were ridiculously high. It took an awful long time for them to start cleaning up that city right after Hurricane Ian. So blame me to a small extent for saying it was the best place to move to, but at this point right now, I do think it's overrated. A lot of people that moved here just failed to realize that at the time, you weren't going to get that value in Naples, you weren't going to get that value in Jupiter, but now they've hyped it up so much, and people forget you don't have beaches, and the beaches that you do have are either dealing with hurricane damages or good old red tide. Means you live in Florida, but you really can't enjoy being on the water, and it doesn't even have beaches directly there. You have to travel to get to those beaches. It means that right now you're living in a coastal city, paying coastal city prices, but you're not in a coastal city. You're kind of in a destruction aftermath. I had no idea that my video would have so many large implications of hundreds of people moving to Cape Coral, and that's apparently what happened. At the time when I made that video, you could find a house in Cape Coral well under $300,000. That doesn't exist anymore. Florida is a fast-changing place, and at the time that I made that statement, Cape Coral very well was a good place to buy. It sure as crap isn't now when you add another $200,000 to that price tag. Number 9 is Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I didn't really find this place to be that impressive when I went there. In fact, I felt that some of the people that were vacationing here were a little extra violent, just a little bit tad on the unfriendly side. And well, there's a lot of beaches that I love going back to. Panama City Beach, Florida is a place that I love going to and vacationing, and I would even consider moving there despite all of its downfalls. Why so many people are moving to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, I don't really understand. Panama City Beach offers so much better that I really don't understand what all the fuss is about with this particular town. When I went there, I didn't really find anything attractive about it. Nonetheless, people are moving here in record numbers, and many magazines are putting it as one of the best places to move to. People are reading that, they're believing it, and they're actually moving here. Definitely overrated. Right now, South Carolina is one of the states that most people are moving to. They have no idea how much this state really sucks. Number 8 is Atlanta, Georgia, the ATL. Now, if you grew up like I did, Atlanta's a special place for you because of its influence in music and culture. However, the Atlanta today is a far cry from the Atlanta that we used to grow up watching on TV. It's gotten overpriced, it's definitely overrated, and many of the people that move to Atlanta or are from Atlanta are just dreaming of being able to escape this nightmare. Crime is a huge concern to the people living in Atlanta, and many people find that even when they move into really nice and expensive parts of Atlanta, it still has a very crimey feel, and they're paying a lot of money to live in the city. Nonetheless, it's unsafe even to get out at a gas station. That hasn't stopped people from the South and from other regions of the country from flocking to Atlanta and continuing to make this an expensive and congested place to live. However, if you're moving across the United States, hear my warning, it's possibly very overrated. The reality of living in Atlanta is very high crime, very expensive, and very congested. On one of my recent trips to Atlanta, the entire night was filled with car alarms going off as people systematically broke into almost every single car in a parking lot right behind the hotel where I was staying. And despite the fact that there was police officers right on the other side of the building, they didn't seem interested in getting involved. I guess they were just there for decoration. Add to that many high-profile criminal cases and organizations that have come out of Atlanta, giving the city a fame of completely out-of-control organized crime rings. City officials have also made complete fools out of themselves, involving themselves publicly with RICO cases against organized crime groups that were actually rap groups. It's a complete cluster crap. The last thing city officials need to do is put themselves on a level playing field with rappers who wear ballet skirts. Even if they win, they're still taking a huge loss when it comes to public opinion, being that what reasonable person wants to see their city officials engaging in a social media battle with rappers that wear pink skirts? This lack of boundary between the professional world of Atlanta and the streets of Atlanta have left many people wondering if their city is really a big powerhouse of industry or just a complete clown show. A lot of reasonable people from Atlanta are leaving the area and going to other places like Houston and Miami. Many people from Atlanta are also moving into Charlotte, which frankly isn't much different. And one of the absolute worst things about Atlanta, despite being a city known for progress, it is still smack dab in the middle of the Deep South. Rappers like Boozy, who live on the outskirts of Atlanta, have continued to post videos of little small town police officers pulling them over on the way to the grocery store consistently. It seems like despite Atlanta fighting to be a place where people can feel comfortable and safe, all you gotta do is drive a few miles out of Atlanta and you find yourself in the midst of the dirty Deep South with all of the uncomfortable things that it is known for. Despite being known as a home to many celebrities, it's questionable how long it will take for the people here in Atlanta to move to Miami or LA or somewhere else that they can feel safer. Nobody that has a decent amount of money really wants to deal with this type of behavior in their community. And even to the east of Atlanta, Stone Mountain is nothing more than a giant Confederate memorial in what is now an affluent African American area. The weirdness of the fact that it's a black city where people go there to be successful, yet all you have to do is just drive a few miles out of town and you're in some of the most backward places you can imagine. It's kind of overwhelming. While many people do find success in Atlanta and make their dreams come true, a lot of people are just stuck living a very difficult prospect with ever increasing real estate prices and rents, yet incomes that just don't reach everybody's needs. Many of the nice suburban areas are also properties that are kind of not looking the way they should look. Many people noted in some of my Atlanta nice suburb videos that while the houses were new and they were big and the cars in the driveway were expensive, if you look at the vinyl siding that hasn't been pressure washed, the grass that hasn't been mowed, and the roof damage that isn't being repaired, these won't be nice suburbs for too long. what is known as bougie. It means an area looks kind of fancy at first glance, but when you look a little deeper, you can see some underlying issues, and that's what's happening with much of Atlanta. You may look at nice new homes and beautiful trees and nice rolling hills, but when you start to look a little bit closer at the details of the condition of some of these properties in the Atlanta suburbs, you'll soon realize that many people might have a mortgage, but perhaps they're spending all their money on rims and brand new cars and very little money on property upkeep. You can only hold on to that for so long. Repeatedly on our Atlanta videos, people point out how the houses are big and beautiful and the cars are expensive, but perhaps you may want to remove those trees that are growing in the gutters. Maybe consider replacing the roof, pressure washing your house, because if you don't keep up on your property, it's not going to be worth much for too long. A clogged gutter can soon turn into $70,000 of damage if it hits the wrong stuff underneath it. And it's the underlying details like that that might pass the attention of most people, but somebody who's looking at a neighborhood to buy a house in wants everybody's grass to be mowed, roofs to be new, and property upkeep to be the best, because they're looking at the long-term value of that neighborhood. New houses can go to crap very quickly. In a neighborhood that today may be very attractive, 10 or 15 years down the line may be worth absolutely nothing. And if people are no longer interested in those neighborhoods and the neighborhood went to crap, you can expect a lot of foreclosures down the road. Atlanta has swallowed up a lot of young people from poor areas in the South, and they just don't understand what it really entitles being an adult. It's not about having an $80,000 car and a 4-bedroom house. You also got to have savings, and you got to have maintenance on your property. And just because the bank gave you a mortgage, you still got to keep up on that property. It's questionable how long Atlanta will continue to ride this bubble, but it's almost certain that there's going to be a lot of people underwater if things were to take a dive for the worst. Number 7 is Gainesville, Florida. Many people see Gainesville as this loving and kind place in North Florida. The reality of Gainesville is there's really not a lot of prospects here. At least Atlanta's industry can attract a lot of jobs and a lot of opportunity, but there's not much of anything going on in Gainesville, Florida. Many young people move here thinking they're going to find a good balance between affordability. Gainesville offers almost nothing. The area really doesn't have any good jobs. It doesn't have a lot of affluent people who can provide opportunities. It's almost a city that's just young people with no future. And while a lot of young people move here, get their education on, and eventually upgrade to something better, some of them just get stuck here and move absolutely nowhere. It's not a giant overpriced real estate bubble like in other places, but if you're considering moving to Florida, this really isn't the glamorous city many people put it out to be. It's a poor central Florida city with no beaches, no jobs, no opportunities, and a lot of young people that are just here to study, which means they're probably doing all types of gigs like door dashing and Uber. The first thing a city has to provide is good jobs and opportunities, and Gainesville simply doesn't have it. How some people are willing to rate this as a good city with good prospects is beyond me. Number 6 is Lexington, Kentucky. Again, another city that just makes you want to scratch your head and say, how the crap does this city end up on a list for the best of anything? It's really a mediocre city that offers absolutely nothing. A few towns over, there is a Toyota manufacturing plant, but it's not directly in Lexington. It's quite a drive. It's got so much homelessness, you would think you're in Florida. Eastern Kentucky has a huge drug problem, and Lexington is no exception to the rule. It's actually kind of like a gathering place for homeless people, and they're somewhat of a protected species here. I recall when I was at the Starbucks in Lexington, I had a homeless person that was trying to urinate on my vehicle. I'm sitting outside of a Starbucks eating my sandwich, and I see this old man. I'm like, I know he's not doing what it looks like he's doing. So I yelled from across the parking lot. I said, hey, old man, you want to get the crap knocked inside out, or, something along those lines, kind of graphic. Oh, the people in the Starbucks all got mad at me because I'm the jerk. Oh, he's a protected species or something. I was like, no, if he does what he's about to do on my vehicle, I'm gonna show you how we handle this type of crap in Florida. Apparently, the people here in Kentucky consider homeless people urinating on their vehicles a protected act. Maybe it's protected in the Kentucky State Constitution of the Commonwealth that it's okay to let homeless people urinate on your vehicles. But in Florida, if you urinate on my vehicle, you're going to find out what R. Kelly likes to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just don't do that to people. But apparently, the sentiment of people in Lexington, Kentucky is let them urinate on your vehicle. In Florida, let me tell you, if somebody's in a parking lot and they're doing that to people's vehicles, it's gonna be some Mike Tyson cross of Trinidad James action going on. But it's not just that particular experience that makes me consider Lexington as a place that sucks. There's more to it. It's basically like a smaller version of Louisville, Kentucky, but at least Louisville, Kentucky is Louisville, Kentucky. Lexington, Kentucky isn't even that. It's just a small, poor, rundown town with very few options in a region of the state that's suffering with the absolute worst statistics for everything imaginable, from tobacco use to infant mortality to teenage birth. If it's bad, these people in eastern Kentucky are splurging at it. Yeah, there's a little football rivalry, but let's be honest, if you're not from Kentucky, you're not even that big into football. People in Louisville and UK, they whatever, but they're from there. That's what they're into. If you're not from Kentucky and you put on a UK whatever, you kind of feel like an idiot. Lexington ain't crap, and if you try to go Trinidad James all gold on everything on my vehicle, I'm gonna go all Mike Tyson on you. I'm a very peaceable person, but that's where I draw the line. If you go Trinidad James all gold on everything on my brand new truck that I just bought for a road trip, best believe. Number 5 is Columbia, South Carolina. If you want to live in a town that has a river and a bunch of old churches, you might as well move to the Czech Republic. Or if you want to keep it in the United States, hear me out, Columbia, South Carolina. Believe it or not, people are actually moving here. They think it's some type of like undiscovered southern. Bless their heart, they just don't know any better. On my trips through this city, I have never seen anything that would make me want to live here. I have seen things that would make me want to leave as soon as possible, however. I could vouch for that. Now, what type of stupid come basura would move to a place that sucks as bad as this place sucks? It is literally one of the crappiest cities in the most crappy region of the country. I hate this town. I hate all the adjacent towns near it. I hate to look at a map. When I look at a map, I'll cover South Carolina with my hand so I don't even have to see this part of the country. The customer service sucks. The people suck. The weather sucks. The tone of the blue sky sucks. The trees suck. Would you like to live in Montgomery, Alabama, but with slightly more palm trees and slightly worse customer service? You found it. Number 4 is Austin, Texas. Imagine being in California where the weather is perfect throughout the entire year. You have beautiful beaches, sea lions, and whales. Then you move to Austin, Texas, where in the summer it's 120 degrees for 5 days straight. Then in the winter you get 5 or 6 days of sleet, snow, ice, and anything else that's frozen. Then somebody smashes the window on your car because apparently radios are a commodity in Austin, Texas, or maybe because everybody that moves there from California thinks, nah, I'm going to be able to open carry, but they're too stupid and they leave it in their car and somebody breaks their window to see if it's there, and they find it, take it, and ship it across the border where some guy is going to use it to extort people saying Arbarotes in Morelos, Mexico, because your dumb idiot Californian left that in your car where somebody could break a window and steal it. And now this old lady who's 55 years old in Mexico, has a broken leg, is morbidly obese, and has no other way to feed her 14 children, is going to have your piece in her face with somebody like, me vas a tener que pagar la cuota, viejita. And she's like, oh, no, yo no puedo, mira, es que tengo muchos hijos. Then he slaps her upside the head, because you're an idiot. Did you guys catch how there's a homeless tent on top of that bridge? That's exactly what people in California think they're leaving behind, but they're going to find more homelessness and more crime, more delinquency, and more reasons to hate life. Like, why would you leave beautiful California to be stuck in a freaking warm freaking desert just to be 110 degrees for like weeks on end, and then it all freezes and ices over, and then a bunch of freaking stupid Californians with the same stupid mindset that you have end up here as well? I kid you not. When I was in this region of Texas recently, 112 degrees. The plastic on the mirror of my car was melting. Then a few months later, not rain, not snow, no, it's like a frozen wintry mix, whatever the crap that is. Who wants to live in a place where you have weather extremes that big? You're either really hot or you're really cold, but make up your mind, Austin, Texas. I would actually move to Austin, Texas, but I understand that one day it's going to be frozen, the other day my car is going to be melting, and the next day somebody's going to break into my car thinking they're going to find something that they can trade for a quarter pound of bougie grass brick weed from Mexico. I understand all that, but the people that are moving here from like California, they think they're moving to some type of promised land. They have no idea that they're leaving behind one of the most beautiful states in the country to live in Austin, Texas. I would move here because I understand it's affordable in some regions. I understand the whole package of moving here, but the people that are moving here, they don't understand that it's not that great of a city. And culturally, it's not Nashville. I mean, people think it's Nashville, bless their hearts, they don't know any better. Culturally, I like San Antonio, I like Houston. Austin is like a bland city. It really doesn't have anything to offer. The people that moved there from California have never had barbecue before, so bless their heart. They think the barbecue is good. They've never had real Southern cooking, so bless their heart. They don't know what's better. Even the Mexican food, if you just cross over into San Antonio, you get some of the best Mexican food in the country. But the people that move here from California have never had real Mexican food. They've had California spicy burn your face off food. So when they try the almost as good as San Antonio Mexican food, but not quite as good, they think it's great. Bless their heart, they just don't know any better. I'm not going to tell you shouldn't move to this area. There's great towns all around San Antonio. If you head back towards like San Antonio, great towns. If you head like in the outskirts of Austin, there's great towns. Even like the whole area, like especially west of 35, there are good areas within the Austin area. But the city of Austin itself is unimpressive. It has a much higher crime rate than you would imagine. And Mexico's not that far away. Whether you leave it in your car, somebody smashes the window and ships it back over there, or they just take the whole entire car. By the time your stupid Californian butt figures out your car and your piece are gone, they're over there in MYRTLE. I really don't think Austin is culturally as great as people think it is. I know it's a live music city. Bless their hearts, not as good as Nashville. They think their culture's good. Look, Austin ain't got no culture, and it's just a bland city. Bless their hearts, they just don't know any better. It's not Miami with beaches. It's not California with beaches and mountains. It's like a desert in the middle of Texas that gets to be 112 degrees, and then next thing you know, you hit a freaking deer for the 12th time in a year. If you've never had the joy of scraping half a deer carcass off the bottom of your car when it's 33 degrees and the water you're using to wash the dead meat off your car is almost frozen, yeah, it's not that great of an experience. And then the next day you walk outside and look at your car to wonder if there's still any deer pieces left on it. And there's like 5 cats licking the bottom of your car because you didn't get every single piece of deer meat off the car. Then you realize you're going to have to go wash the car again to get all of the deer pieces off of it. Oh yeah, it's a great place to live. And then even though you got frostbite the night before trying to get the water to wash the deer meat off the car, the next day it's so hot that now the deer meat's starting to stink because it's neither cold or hot. It's a freaking mess. And then there's the freaking Karens. They're everywhere. Hey, Katie, find me something that can prevent a stroke or something. Number 3 is Greenville, South Carolina. Basically everything I said for Columbia, South Carolina, but more traffic, A little bit more jobs, less churches, and less rivers. A few mountains here and there in the distance. You know what? If you want to move to North Carolina, just go ahead and get the real thing and move to North Carolina. Somehow, this is in fact one of the fastest growing cities in the country right now. People are moving here, but I don't really find it that impressive. I think it's kind of overrated. I don't think the area really offers anything. The people that live here says, well, you're close to the mountains and you're close to the beach. You can do both in the same week. I'm like, yeah, you can get on a plane and see the whole world in a week. You know, you're not really there, and you're not in the mountains and you're not in the beach. Just you could be in the mountains. You know, I could be on a plane on my way to Hong Kong for all you care. You know, like the airport's 15 minutes away from where I live. Another case of bless their heart, they just don't know any better. I don't see what all the hype is really about. Besides, South Carolina is a horse's butt. What makes people think that affordability is an indication that the place you're going to move to is good? It's like going to a car dealership and like, well, what's the cheapest car you got here? Like, sir, you know, we have a very reliable brand new Toyota Corolla right here and a Camry. No, sir, I don't want reliable. I want affordable. Well, you know, these new vehicles have a warranty. No, I just want to know what the most affordable car on your lot is. Well, there is a 1999 Kia Rio back there. I'll take that one. It's the most affordable one. When you buy them, when you look for cities to move to, you don't look at cities and be like, which one's the most affordable? It's like going into a dealership and be like, sir, what do you need? Well, I need a pickup truck. I want it to be newer and have a warranty. No, you don't walk into a dealership and be like, well, what's the cheapest car you got out here? Like, who does that? Like, when you settle for like a Columbia, South Carolina, or a Greenville, South Carolina, because it's affordable, it's like walking to a car dealership, and then when you're in your most affordable car they had, and you're like, well, this car has a few problems, and you don't call a dealership back and be like, hey man, this car's got a few problems. Like, yeah, you kind of told us you wanted the cheapest car we had, and well, that's you got what you paid for, buddy. So that's kind of like a lot of people are moving to these cities in South Carolina because there's affordable cities. There's a reason why they're affordable, I'm telling you. Bless their heart, they just don't know any better. Moving to Greenville, South Carolina, it's like buying a trailer with a broken axle and being like, well, man, I brand new one's worth $4,000 a month, man. I got this trailer for $800, man. Yeah, it's got a bent axle. There's a reason why it's cheaper. So if you're wondering why Greenville, South Carolina is cheaper, there's reasons why it's cheaper. You're not exactly getting a Mercedes-Benz or a Maserati here. You're getting a 99 Kia Rio. Or, you know, if California was a car, let's say like San Diego was a car, it would be a convertible BMW. Miami would be maybe a convertible like Lamborghini. Kentucky would be an old pickup truck. Greenville, South Carolina would be like a Chevy Aveo. It's like a Mitsubishi Mirage. There's a reason why it's more affordable. It's a squatted Yukon with 300,000 miles, raggedy cracked seats, unexplainable smell, and like 3-inch fluffy steering wheel that's pink. It's like a Saturn with too many bumper stickers. Number 2 is Charlotte, North Carolina, having an airport that's very busy, having a lot of new construction, considerably affordable. There are a lot of jobs here. All that may make you think this is a great place to live, but I think they probably overbuilt a lot of new apartments, and now they have more inventory than people actually moving in. There's a huge campaign to get people to move to Charlotte. The city might have a beautiful skyline, and it is close to some beautiful mountains and affordability and jobs. All that might seem like it's a great place to live, but my experiences traveling through this city have been the worst of anywhere I've been in America. From being attacked by a zombie apocalypse more than once to having people chase me down on several occasions trying to take our camera because they don't want us recording in their hood, dog. This city has just left a bad taste in my mouth. I really haven't been impressed by the city, and it seems like it's just people who quit on Atlanta that are ending up here. There's nothing really appealing to me about this city. I think it's overrated. I think a great place to move has beaches, mountains, right there in the city, not like, you know, a little bit of a drive out. You have to drive like 2 hours from Charlotte to get to a beautiful mountain, by the way. It's not like the mountains are right there. And it's not like the beaches are as close as your realtor told you. You have to drive like a whole day. When you get there, they're not incredible beaches. So, like, there's really not... Hey, back off. Hey, dude, I'm going to run you over. I ain't playing with you, dog. Hey, I'm going to run you over. You think I'm playing? I'm going to run you... You think I'm playing? I'm going to run you over. Like I told you. Now I'm burning. Look at that. Yeah. So anyways, like I said, there are some horrible neighborhoods in the Charlotte area. And you're going to find yourself perhaps one day in Charlotte and not realize you're in one of those bad neighborhoods because, you know, like your realtor didn't tell you about that. But it's a city that every time I've gone there, the people just seem really nasty, snobby, and rude. It's like the rudest people from New York moved here. Like the snobbiest, rudest people from New York. None of my experiences in this city have ever been pleasant. Let me just tell you, despite the fact they're trying to tell people it's this great, clean, safe city, I have not experienced that one bit in the city. In fact, for some reason that I can't explain, every time I've been to the city, it's like there's a huge target on my back and the zombie apocalypse wants to get me. Does that mean that every tourist that ever goes to Charlotte is going to experience the same things I have? I hope not, but it should just be an indication that this city has another undercurrent of things going on that you may not want in your life. The people here just suck. I mean, there's no nice way of putting it. I also had the one guy that was recording me because I was recording in his neighborhood. Like, who does that? Total weird crap. It's just a bad vibe city. The drivers are horrible. We also recorded a car accident here. It's like the few times we've been in the city, everything horrendous that could happen to us has happened. So you can't expect me to have, like, they said, come back, we'll show you our city's good. And I came back and it was actually worse the second time than the first time. Does it mean just because all my experiences here have been bad that it's a bad city? Probably not, but it's probably a good indication that this city really sucks. And I would not recommend moving here. I know what makes a city great. What makes a city great isn't new construction. They can put new construction everywhere. We have a place in Florida called Lehigh Acres. It's all new construction. Guess what? There's not even an Applebee's. So just because there's new construction, that doesn't mean anything. This is the United States of America. The country of China, which is probably not where you want to live, they have so many new buildings that they started to demolish them. So don't just assume that because a city has new construction that it's a great thing. China has new buildings. Nobody can afford them. So that doesn't really mean anything. Like Russia has a lot of new buildings. It's horrible to live there. It's like frigid cold. The people are even worse than the people in the United States as far as being rude and nasty. Like, you want to try a crappy place, try Russia. But at the end of the day, all I'm saying is just because there's all these new buildings here, that doesn't mean anything. The number one most overrated city in the country is Huntsville, Alabama. Where do you even begin to address the mental abnormality that these people have that would make them think that this is the greatest city in the country? Magazines, top 10 lists, everybody says that Huntsville, Alabama is the greatest place to live in the country. Even when I lived in Alabama, and let me tell you, we were thinking of Huntsville. If Montgomery hadn't worked out, we would have moved up to Huntsville and we would have lived there. But let me tell you, even when I lived in Alabama, before everything went to crap, we visited Huntsville, and I didn't think it was all that great. And back then, they were saying it was one of the best cities in the country. It was starting to be that. Now everybody says Huntsville is the greatest city in the country. There are some mountains. There is affordability. One of the reasons there's affordability here is because all of the resources that you need to build homes and buildings are regionally sourced. You have incredible red clay, the easiest thing to build on. You have easy access to lumber. Mississippi's not that far down the road. Everything that you would need to build houses affordably is here. It's a natural given area to growth because everything is affordable. You don't have to, like in Florida, you don't have red clay. You have to bring dump truck loads in to fill up the land, and then it's at the right grade. Next thing you know, you spend $30,000 moving dirt before you start building a house. You don't have to do that in Huntsville, Alabama. There's a lot of regional things that make building here very easy. But just because it's easy to build here doesn't mean it's the greatest city in America. It might be the most profitable place to sell houses if you're a builder, but that doesn't mean it's the best place to buy a house if you want to live in the best place ever. There's a lot of regional things that make this area attractive. From of where it is, it's like what they call the Sun Belt, the northern Sun Belt. All of the fastest growing cities from Charlotte to Greenville to Huntsville, pushing back towards Austin is what they call the Sun Belt. You know, the cities with perfect weather. That's exactly where Huntsville is. You get a little bit of snow, but you don't get like that horrible summer. It's like perfect weather cities. There's a lot of things that make it an attractive region, but does it make it the greatest city to move to in the country? I don't think so. It's overrated. Orlando, Florida has better buildings, better construction. I mean, Huntsville could be swallowed up by Orlando 4 times over. Would I move to Orlando, Florida? No. Would I vacation there? Absolutely. Am I going to move to Orlando? Probably not. So all that attracts people to Huntsville. And there's jobs, of course. The reason there's jobs is because the people in Alabama are lazy and they don't want to work. So, of course, there's jobs in Alabama. There's jobs in Montgomery, too. Hey, guess what? There's jobs in Baton Rouge. Am I running to move to Baton Rouge? Not anytime soon. But the problem is this. Despite all of the good things that Huntsville has going for it, it's definitely not one of the worst places to move to, but it's not the best. There's a lot of reasons why it's not the best, but let me just tell you some of the bad things that will prevent Huntsville from being the best city in the country. Number one, it's still in Alabama, a state that has, as we know, horrible racism, horrendous real estate laws. The entire laws of the state of Alabama were probably drafted by somebody who was drinking either too much moonshine or was inbred enough to get the job because he had McCarthy on both sides of his pedigree and not because he qualified for it. It's a state that has horrendous laws. It still has a very high murder rate, still has a very high crime rate. Alabama is not exactly the safest place to live. It's not exactly the healthiest place to live. It's not exactly, let's say, the most progressive place to live. You'll find out eventually. No matter how nice Huntsville gets, it's still in Alabama. The laws that govern Huntsville are the laws of Alabama. Laws that were drafted by people who were either inbred or had too much moonshine the day they made these laws. While they understand that as people move to their state, they're not able to select their race. When people move, they come in all shades and colors. Just because there is diversity in Huntsville doesn't mean that it's welcome there by the locals. And don't think that the locals that are from Huntsville and Hartselle and Athens don't feel a certain way about you from California or you from the northern states. They have a name for you, by the way. And let's not even get started on people from other parts of the world. They have names for everybody there. So don't think that the people that are actually from here are too welcoming to outsiders, because they're hostile as crap to outsiders. The people that are actually from here, they don't want you there. At the end of the day, Huntsville, despite all of the things that are attracting people to the city, doesn't really have any incredible natural setting. It's not like a Denver where you're like, wow, look at those mountains with like horned deers and antlers and bears and crap and panthers walking on them. It's not that fancy. It's just some nice mountains and some nice views. They have that all over the country. The Appalachian Mountains start like in Alabama and they go all the way up to like Maine. So there's nothing special here like the California coast is special. The Colorado Rockies are special. The Florida beaches are special. There's nothing special here. There's some mountains. There's mountains all over the country. Is it as bad as Montgomery? No. Is it as bad as Birmingham? Absolutely not. But it's still in Alabama, and it's definitely not a city that should be having this type of growth. Why don't they put these jobs in California or Texas? In fact, they're taking the jobs from Texas, California, and Florida and moving them to Huntsville. Why? Have you ever asked yourself why? I would tell you my interpretation of why they took jobs from Houston and put them in Alabama, but you may not like my explanation. I'd like to hear your explanation. Why? But at the end of the day, they don't put these. Do you really think that engineers from Germany and Japan want to live in Alabama? No, they don't. Even there's a comedian from Alabama. He actually cracks jokes about that. Everybody in the auto industry cracks jokes about this. It's no secret that engineers from Japan and Germany don't want to end up in Alabama. they're kind of just put there. So there's a reason why this area is growing, and it's because whatever. There's a reason why this area is getting the growth. It's a little frustrating sometimes, but there's reasons why this area is growing, and there's reasons why the jobs that would better off be somewhere else are being put here. That's a whole nother frustrating topic to get into. Open to interpretation as well. So why would I even tell you my opinion when it's just my opinion? At the end of the day, I do think it's overrated. Is it a good place to move to? Sure, it could definitely be a good place to move to. Is it the best place to move to in the country, like all these magazines are putting it out to be? Absolutely not. There's a huge load of baggage that needs to be explained to people when they talk about Huntsville, and they don't talk about it. One of them is the horrendous real estate laws of Alabama. So if you're moving there, probably don't buy, rent. I don't need to read stories on the internet. I have people who call me and say, hey, Jose, I got transferred to Huntsville. This is what I'm going through right now at my workplace. Hey, I got pulled over by a sheriff and it went down like this and like that and like that. And it's not one or two people. I've had several people already tell me what they've gone through systematically living in Huntsville, and it's the same systematic things that I dealt with in Montgomery, Alabama. Alabama does not like outsiders. They don't want Hispanics there. And you still have a huge portion of the population that will make your life impossible. So if you're from a diverse background, definitely don't end up in Huntsville. Yeah, if you're from a small town in Mississippi or a small town in southern Alabama and you move to Huntsville, you might think it's a progressive place coming from there. But if you've lived in Miami or Los Angeles or New York, you're going to realize very soon that there's a lot of backwards crap going on here. And again, I don't need to hear your opinions or stories, because I hate when I get people from Huntsville. There, it's not like that. We would never do that here. We have all types of people. Yeah, I have all types of people as well who tell me their stories and the nightmares that they've lived in this region of Alabama. But hold on, wait, there's more. I have friends here in Florida that are from this region of Alabama, and the nightmare stories that they tell me about this region from the inside, because it's them that are from this part of Alabama, are some of the scariest stories you could imagine. Like, you're not going to tell me, you're not going to pull the wool over my head. I've lived in Alabama. I've spent time in Huntsville, and I have 77,000 people who follow my channel, some of which call me in desperation, telling me the things that they're going through in Huntsville, Alabama, because of the racism there. So don't try to tell me now that this doesn't happen. It's not happening to you because you're white and you go to their church and they're your friends, but you have no idea, if you live in Huntsville, what these people are going through from other communities that end up in your 1865 state. So I don't give a crap what you say if you're from Huntsville. I have, like I said, seen it firsthand. Know people that have lived it, had emails and calls, desperate people in desperate situations going through some nightmares in Huntsville, Alabama because of racism. So don't try to tell me on my channel now that you're from here and you're progressive. Get the crap out of here, dude. Like, I know what's going on here with the racism. I lived it in my own flesh in Montgomery, and I hear the stories from people that call me and tell me in Spanish in their own words and tears and fear you could hear in their voice, because they're going through the same exact thing that I went through in Montgomery. So basically, are there Hispanics here? Yeah, there's Hispanics here. Some of them are going through absolute nightmares. Are they going to talk about it? No, because they're scared. The only reason I got the bravery to talk about it is because I feel like my job's so dangerous. What difference does it make anymore? Regardless, I'm not going to sit here and argue with a bunch of stupid people about something that I already know the answer to. You can either believe me or don't believe me. But if you want to believe the people that are trying to beef up their state, trying to make it seem like it's a great place to move to, you go ahead and believe their little story. I believed it, and I'm back in Florida now living a much better life. And if you don't want to believe me, that's cool as well. Hey, move to Alabama as a Hispanic or an Asian and find out for yourself how it works. Learn something in life. I'm not against it. You want to learn some new things and experience some new things? Go ahead. You want to put your family in questionable circumstances? Go ahead. Give it a try and see how it goes. I don't think it's bad. I think a lot of the people in our Spanish community and Asian communities need to find out what's really happening because we're blind. And when we share our stories, nobody wants to believe us. And then you have people that are trying to cover it up. They know what it's about, and they're saying it doesn't happen. At the end of the day, if you want to move to one of the most backward states that has one of the worst civil rights violation histories in the whole entire world possibly, go ahead and give Alabama a shot. And if you're American, don't think you're exempt from this happening to you as well. They don't like each other either. Don't think because you're American that you're not going to go through this as well. So I'm just letting you know. If you want to move to Huntsville and find out what Alabama's about, go ahead. Just remember the warnings that I told you. Don't buy any real estate. Don't make too many investments. Be as ready to get up and go as possible, because one day it might come to you having to get up and go very quickly because it's Alabama. How can these people have the face to sit here and try to promote that their state is the best place to live when they know for a fact the type of backwards inbred crap that's going on in their state? When they know for a fact that their state is backwards, corrupt, and discriminatory? When they know for a fact that they have laws like HB 56 on the books? I'd rather be in Florida on a beach. You can keep that crap. I'm not going to tell you Florida's perfect, because it's not. But at least here, I don't have to worry about my life. And at least here, if somebody does want to threaten my life, I know that whether they like it or not, there's going to be some type of investigation. There's going to be some type of repercussion. But I'm happy here in Florida. Is it perfect? No. Is it easy? It's definitely not easy. Now, if you want to live in an easy place, it doesn't get any easier than Alabama. I'll tell you that right now. If easy is a formula that you're looking for, then Alabama might work for you. But if you want to do something with your future, get ahead in life, and not have to worry about your safety or worry about racial tensions and crap like that, you're not going to find that in Alabama, especially not in northern Alabama. Keep your little mountains and your little tractors. I'm going to be down here in Florida on a dang beach. And when I start making over $100,000 after taxes, I'm moving to California. I get the beaches and the mountains.